Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the adjourned City Council meeting of July 25th, 2016. And I would like to call this meeting to order at 4:05 p.m. And Chief, would you lead us in the flag salute?
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Maria. Lewis. Here. Silvera. Present. Stonogrove. Here. Mayor Villalta.
Here. We do have a quorum. Consideration of approval of agenda. Do I have a motion? Ms. Lewis?
I'd like to move to accept the agenda as submitted.
Do I have a second? Ms. Silvera?
Second.
Motion by Lewis, second by Silvera to approve the agenda as stated. All in favor? Aye. All in favor? Or excuse me, anyone opposed? None. Okay. Public forum number 5. Members of the public may address the City Council on any item of public interest that is within the jurisdiction of the City Council. This includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items, and speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines are posted on the Council Chamber informational table. Is there anyone who wishes to speak at the public forum? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public forum and go on to item 6, public hearing. If you challenge the proposed action described herein in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described herein or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Item 6A, public hearing. To receive public comment and consider a general plan amendment that would update the housing element of the Los Banos general plan pursuant to state law. The purpose of the housing element is to establish specific goals, policies, and objectives relative to the provision of housing and adopt an action plan. Item 6A1, City Council Resolution number 5776. Adopting 2014 to 2023 housing element and negative declaration SCH number 2016041070 and authorizing its submission to the State Department of Housing and Community Development. And we will go to Senior Planner Elms for a description.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Just wanted to give you an overview of the housing element and how we've got through this process and an overview of what we're doing today. So there is a 6-phase process in the housing element. It starts off with a program initiative, and it consisted of a public workshop. We reached out to the community of Los Banos, invited them to a workshop because we were soliciting input into the housing element. And then phase 2, we prepared a housing needs assessment. Phase 3, we prepared the draft housing element, and it did go to the Planning Commission and City Council. And those were all public hearings. And then phase 4, the Housing and Community Development reviewed our housing element and provided a letter. And based on that letter that we received, we went back and forth with HCD on revisions. And then we received an approval, an informal approval that they would approve our proposed housing element. And then phase 5 is the environmental process, so CEQA, and we prepared a negative declaration for the housing element. And then the last phase is where we are at right now, which is public review and adoption. And it's gone to the Planning Commission with a positive recommendation and is now before you, City Council. And this is the last step to then sending the final housing element to HCD, Housing and Community Development, for certification, and would meet all state requirements to be eligible for future funding, any type of housing type of funding we would be eligible for. Then we would have a housing element in compliance. So HCD, the Housing and Community Development, we did receive a comment letter, and it does describe revisions needed to comply with state housing element law. And it analyzes the feasibility of identified non-vacant sites to accommodate the city's regional housing need allocation, our RENA number. and it ensures the city is in compliance with SB 2, which is Senate Bill 2. And this really refers to special needs housing. And back when the city did a comprehensive zoning update back in 2010 of our zoning code, we put in a lot of the SB 2 requirements, which require emergency homeless shelters in residential zoning district, require special needs housing in those districts, as well as employee housing. So we are already in compliance with SB 2. So CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, an initial study was prepared to identify and assess potential environmental impacts as a result of the project, and staff determined that the project would not result in any significant adverse effects. We prepared a notice of intent for a negative declaration, State Clearinghouse number 2016041070. This was posted at Merced County Clerk's office and was also sent to the Office of Planning and Research at the State of California. And the review period was from April 22nd, 2016 to May 23rd, 2016. We did receive one comment letter from Caltrans, which just let us know that with housing comes transportation and traffic issues that the city would need to analyze, and that on a case-by-case situation, when we do get into the development phase of these projects, we need to consult Caltrans if it deals with a state highway, which we will when we get to a more in-depth development process. So the Planning Commission, they did review this item on June 8th, 2016, and recommended approval to the Los Banos City Council. And public hearing notices were published in the Los Banos Enterprise on July 15th, 2016, and no comments have been received. So staff at this time is asking that the City Council adopt resolution number 5776 approving a general plan amendment for the 2014-2023 housing element and associated negative declaration. And that will end my presentation. I did keep it pretty brief as I went into detail when the draft came out to the City Council previously, and so this is just the formal approval of that draft and the formal approval of any revisions that HCD had, which really just consisted of us cleaning up some language in order to be in compliance with state law. Also, I wanted to thank the council for allowing us to have this special meeting, this adjourned meeting here today. This was in order for us to meet the cycle deadline. We had till July 30th to catch on to the 9-year cycle, and if we missed the July 30th deadline, then we'd be on a 4-year cycle. So this will help the city with staying in compliance that much longer, so we won't have to do another update for another 9 years. So that concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Questions? Stacy, as it talks about with aging, farm workers, homelessness, all these things, is it the intent of this document to look for areas where there's already not a concentration of stack and pack?
Yes, so the intent of the housing element, and this is the way that the state has it, is that the city would not overlook those special needs, that we also provide for those, and that we have a responsibility as a community to provide for those types of housing for various levels of the community, various income levels. So it's not designating that it needs to be in a specific area, but that we would provide the zoning and try to relieve burdens throughout the city for those types of special needs housing. So we can designate anywhere within our city where we'd like those to be. And this is a part of the general plan, so it's really a vision of where we want our city policy, where we want our city to be, and then it's for us to use our zoning tools to establish where we want those different districts for that type of special housing to be located. So it's not designating that those needed to be in a concentrated area. It's the city, we still have the ability to designate where those zones are located.
Because this is the assurance I'm looking for. Years ago, planners were taught to locate all the apartments in one area. All the R3, all the R2 was in, and the area over on West I Street is designated the Northwest Apartment District. And that's a sad connotation based on what we've learned after all these years with planning. So I guess what I'm asking is, that's not the city's way of thinking anymore, is it?
Absolutely not, absolutely not. And it's not, it's actually generally in the world of planning, not accurate to think that way. Sure, you do want to provide housing next to services and the hospital in that instance, and but you want to create mixed uses and viable, well-rounded communities and neighborhoods, and so mixing the different uses is what is appropriate now.
So then, according to this document, that's not the intent of this document, to already stack and pack even more in an area that's overburdened?
No, yeah, not at all.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm happy with those answers, because I fought a long time to see that doesn't happen, because we've seen the results of stupidity over the last 40 years, and I just want to make sure we don't repeat history. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So at this point, we would entertain a motion. Oh, we have to open a public hearing. That's right. Almost forgot. There were so many people here. I'm almost skipped over the public hearing. So at this time, I would like to open the public hearing as related to City Council Resolution number 5776, as read by title. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on City Council Resolution number 5776? Not seeing anyone or hearing anyone, I will now close the public hearing and bring it back to council level. So we've received the staff report, we've opened a public hearing, we closed the public hearing, and now I need a motion. Mr. Silvera.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve City Council Resolution 5776, adopting the 2014 through 2023 housing element and negative declaration.
Okay, do I have a second? Mrs. Stonegrove.
Second.
Motion by Silvera, second by Stonegrove, to approve City Council Resolution number 5776 as read by title. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Carried. All right. Is there any further business from the council, or anything the council would like to hear? All right. Not hearing anything, I will adjourn this meeting at 4:18.